Did we, like whatever is in our plan? How is our plan moving along?
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that way, you continue getting funded.
That's why you said this was fun.
Yeah.
This is where they can tell you, oh, we're going to cut that project.
Exactly. But, and this, and at the same time, though, this reporting regularly also keeps you on track, because oh, geez, in like 3 more weeks, we have a report that's due. Have we done all of the objectives, or have we met all of the timelines and deadlines? Are we still under budget? Are we still at, par where we should be? This is where you always have to, and like I said before, you always have to keep reviewing, keep going backwards and reviewing, taking a look back. And in order to move forward smoothly, we do have to look back.
Right.
Know where we're coming from in order to know where we're going. Okay, so the next one is the close. So after you take a look at, everything in perspective, taking a look at, the setup, taking a look at the planning and the, what was in, what had encompassed the planning and what was involved in the planning, then you're set up for the delivery. And once you're done the project and you're coming to a close, what has to be done? Well, of course, the last stage is the close, and this involves stepping back and evaluating the project and finalizing all loose ties, all aspects of your project. So again, there are 6 pieces to the close. And the key activities in this stage is, the first one is to ensure, is the goals met? Have your goals been met? You want to ensure that all your objectives have been met and all the relevant and key documents and reports have been completed and given to organizations. Okay? Your project output, you want to make sure that you've set up commitments to review your project outputs once they've been implemented into the organization. Okay? You want to review and take a look at any final project outputs. What has to be, changed, what needs to be addressed still, all of those pieces. Once they've been implemented into the organization or into your community per se, have they been reviewed, and what needs to be changed? So that's where the next step is the final communications piece, and that is providing the final communication, relevant people involved, or any people that are affected by the project. Mm-hmm. You want to be able to, have that final communication to them. And in turn, that's where the evaluation of the project comes in. You want to be able to conduct an evaluation of the project to the people that are relevant to the project. Who helped you with the project and who were you serving? That's what it comes down to, is the project was to serve a purpose. And in most cases, we serve our people, right? To better our people, to better our communities and build our communities stronger. So how did it work? Did it affect it? How did it affect the people? How did it affect your community? You want to be able to have an evaluation form or an exit interview or anything like that that's going to be able to gauge how well you did, how well and how effective the project did. Did it meet all of the objectives? So again, in the evaluation of the project, you're going to take a look at the questions that you're going to develop for your evaluation of the project. Those questions, you're going to have to, again, take a look back at your planning. Take a look back up at the setup. Did it meet the expectations, and did it meet all the objectives that you were hoping to provide and to meet? So again, the next stage, of course, is to celebrate.
Okay.
Be proud. Be proud of the accomplishments, and depending again on what kind of project it was. You know, if it was, social based or health based, you know, you want to be able to celebrate with all of those clients or all of those participants in the project. If it was, say, a healing project, you know, all those participants that, you know, were there, you know, you want to celebrate their accomplishment for completing the project.
Right. Right.
Again, this project, like Greta, this project is broad. It's all a matter of, again, your setup phase. And then again, your final report. You know, after your celebration, you're still not done. After it's finished, you're still not done. You still have to do your final report. And you complete your final report to your board or to your funders, or you want to report it or give it to the appropriate people, the relevant people.
Right.
And usually with a project, depending on, you know, the magnitude of the project, a final report is very important because you can use it as a resource tool for next time. So for best practices, for, you know, what could we have done better next time, or, and this is all your final report. Your final report will be based upon all your evaluations. So the final communication piece in this close section, your evaluation of the project. When you evaluate and survey people that were participants, your staff, maybe it could have been your project team as well. You know, what did they see, you know, was beneficial, the pros and cons, and things to come. You know, that can all be in your final report. And of course,
right.
And your final report can also include not just the dialogue or not just the written up piece, but it can also include, next steps. Where do we go from here? Also, it can be your budget. What's that?
Okay.
Yeah, it can also be
like recommendations.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Recommendations for next time. Further training, further programming. Maybe now we want to take a look at a project based on something else. What was missing? You know, your final report can also include your budget. How much were you off budget? Depending on, again, who your funders are. And who is a part of your setup phase.
Okay.
Okay, so Greta.
Are you familiar?
Hey?
Are you familiar with a lot of these funding agencies? Like, do you know some of these people that say yeah and no to some of these project proposals?
Yeah. Like for instance, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't say yes and no, but of course I don't say yes and no, but a lot of the times, I mean, for instance, when I was working with KCATS, through RAFADA, we were a part of that whole process from the very beginning to the end, and it's still going on, but that was through a different part. That was ESDC, right? That was Employment Social Development Canada. And then we have proposals here. We have agreements here for projects through, MNDM, and, that's Ministry of Northern Development Mines. And then we have proposals or projects through MNRF, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, it goes on and on. The other thing is, NRCan, Natural Resource Canada. And then there's, Environment Canada. There's a number of different proposals and funding that are specific. They're two specific pieces. They're not technically, projects that are developed by the community. So that's why I was saying, that's why we wanted to do this particular webinar, because, you know, we need to start taking a look at our communities and addressing those gaps in our communities. Well, okay, so now we know what our gaps are. Where do we fit those funding proposals into our community as opposed to having us fit theirs? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like instead of us as communities and challenges, how do we make those funding proposals meet our needs? So it's all a matter of how we set it up and how we plan. We almost have to manipulate the system in a sense to make it fit us. Especially if we're going to be, well, especially if we're going to be, and by manipulate, I mean, you know, we have to change certain aspects or, you know, add specific proponents or add certain goals or objectives, you know, in order to have our main objective and our main goal be met, our overarching objective to be met. We have to sometimes include certain aspects in order to achieve specific funding, especially if it's coming from, you know, government or ministries, you know?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You understand what
yes,
I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
Like the thing I was, when you're talking like this, I'm thinking, you know, because say your project was to clean the lake, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be environmental, and then it might be what do you call it, like infrastructure,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You try and get water, clean water,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So some part, can you say in your plan you need money for environment? So do you direct your proposal to environment, or do you just leave that one out and say I need this much from environment and I need this much from you know, like community based? You know what I mean? Like, okay, that'll be that part of your budget.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Okay, this is my answer to that. So if you have something that looks like that, this is where you're taking a look at. It's almost as though you're taking a look at a huge project that can be put into segments. So, for instance, you may have an overarching goal, an overarching objective. What you're going to want to do in the setup, and then further, in the setup and in the planning piece, in the setup stage, you're going to want to have this huge overarching project laid out. This is what we need to address. This is the different components that we need to take a look at. Then what you're going to do is, with those specific separate components for this overarching project, you're going to want to break those down into, like, those segments. You're going to want to have a funder for each of those segments. So, for instance, for example, for Four Rivers, for instance, Four Rivers was an overarching development when we had a lot of need, or when there was a huge need for environmental information, environmental informing, environmental projects, you know, work and capacity building in our